The galaxy was wide, filled with countless suns and unending worlds. Civilizations rose and fell, empires traded, and fleets crossed the void without fear. Yet, even in this vastness, there was a place where no one went. A place the maps left, empty. A place of silence. It was known only by whispers, human space. Merchants spoke of it while drinking in shadowed stations. Their voices dropped low, their eyes darting about as if the very mention might draw danger closer. They told stories of starships that wandered too far, lured by curiosity or greed, only to vanish without leaving wreckage behind. No distress signals, no escape pods, only silence. Children across the galaxy were raised on warnings. Stay away from the Terran void, parents told them. The humans live there. They will find you if you enter. The children often laughed, thinking it nothing more than a tale to keep them obedient. But even in laughter, fear remained in their hearts, because the stories were too many. And too consistent. There were those who swore they had seen things, shadows moving against the stars, ships larger than cities, darker than the void itself, shapes that drifted without sound, as if watching, waiting. Some survivors told of strange signals carried through the static of space, signals that sounded like voices, calm human voices whispering words no alien could understand. The Council of Worlds never wrote these tales in their records. They called them superstition, the mutterings of fools who lost their way in the dark. Yet, deep inside their grand chambers, among the oldest and wisest of races, the truth was known. There was a reason no one entered those stars, and that reason was fear. The humans were more myth than memory. Most species had never seen one. They had no embassies, no colonies to trade with, no fleets patrolling the common lanes. They had disappeared from the stage of galactic life ages ago, retreating into their own void. But while the galaxy forgot them, the humans had not forgotten the galaxy. Sometimes a trader desperate for profit would take a route close to the forbidden space. Most never returned. The few who did were broken, trembling in their cockpits, whispering only one sentence before they fell silent forever. They are real. The galaxy lived with many dangers, warlords, pirates, plagues, but nothing chilled the heart more than the thought of the Terran void. Because pirates could be bargained with. Warlords could be fought. Even plagues could be cured. But humans could not be understood. They could not be seen. They could only be felt like a shadow standing just beyond sight. And so the silence spread. No trader entered. No empire claimed the stars. The void remained untouched, a wound in the galactic map. Even the bravest captains marked their courses, with wide arcs to avoid it. Generations passed, but the fear did not fade. It grew. The less the galaxy knew, the more their imagination filled the dark. Were the humans building an empire inside their space? Were they creating weapons so powerful that no one could resist? Or were they simply waiting for the day the galaxy forgot its fear, so they could remind it once again? Every answer was a nightmare. The truth was simple but terrifying. No species enters human space. And though no alien could explain why, every heart across the galaxy carried the same feeling. Somewhere in that endless silence, something was watching. Something patient, something human. The Zurich Dominion had never feared anyone. Their fleets stretched across 100 systems, their armies crushed countless enemies, and their rulers believed no star was beyond their reach. They were tall, scaled beings, with eyes like burning coals and a pride sharper than blades. To them myths were nothing but weak excuses told by lesser species. When the Zurich heard about the mysterious void called human space, they laughed. Empty superstition, their commander said. Nothing hides in silence. Silence means weakness. Silence means ripe territory. The High Council of the Dominion gathered inside a fortress of steel, their voices echoing across the chamber. Maps of stars glowed before them. The forbidden void was shown in black, untouched, unclaimed, unmarked. To the Zurich it was an insult, a gap in the galaxy. a wound that begged to be filled with their banners. One warlord, fierce and cruel, stood tall before the others. "We are the Dominion," he thundered. "We are the bringers of order. If no one claims this human space, then we shall. Let the cowards whisper. We will march our fleets through their ghost stories. We will plant our flags on every world. And when the galaxy sees us conquer even their greatest fear, all will kneel." Cheers rose from the chamber. The decision was made. Within days, fleets of Zurich-I warships gathered at the border of human space. Thousands of ships, battleships, cruisers, carriers, formed an endless line of steel and fire. Their commanders broadcasted their pride across the stars. "We enter what none dare enter. The Dominion fears nothing." The galaxy watched in silence. On countless worlds, beings crowded around holoscreens and listened to the broadcasts. Many trembled. Some whispered prayers. Others cursed the Zurich-I for their arrogance. Everyone knew what was at stake. At first, everything seemed normal. The Zurich-I fleets crossed the border. Their ships spread wide, scanning the empty systems. No resistance met them. No strange signals. No enemy fleets. Only silent stars. The Zurich-I mocked the galaxy. "See?" They laughed over open channels. "Your myths are nothing. Your stories are lies. This human space is ours." But slowly the silence grew heavier. Scouts sent ahead failed to report back. Entire patrols vanished from the long-range maps. Admirals grew uneasy, but they kept their voices firm, afraid to show weakness. Perhaps they malfunctioned, they said. Perhaps space storms swallowed them. Yet the disappearances continued. One ship, then 10, then an entire squadron. No wreckage, no distress calls, no signals at all. They simply stopped existing. A young Zurich-I captain sent a final message before his ship went dark. His voice shook as static filled the channel. "We are not alone here. Something is moving in the dark." Then silence. The Dominion fleets grew restless. Crews whispered in secret. They spoke of shadows passing their viewports. Ships too massive to be measured. Shapes darker than the void. The commanders silenced them with threats. "There are no humans," they said. "Only fear in your minds." But even the commanders could not hide their unease. Their fleets, once proud and unbreakable, were being eaten away piece by piece. Not by battle, not by fire, by silence. The galaxy watched in horror. The Zurich-I, arrogant and fearless, had stepped into the forbidden stars, and now, one by one, their fleets were disappearing into the dark. What remained was only a question. Were the humans real? The answer was coming. News of the Zurich-I fleet's vanishing spread faster than light. Traders whispered of it in hidden corners of stations. Entire colonies spoke of it in fear. For the first time in centuries, the mighty Zurich-I Dominion had gone silent. Thousands of their warships had entered human space with arrogance and laughter. Now nothing came back. The Council of Worlds called an emergency meeting. Delegates from 100 species filled the great chamber, voices rising in panic. The room shook with arguments. Some demanded answers, some demanded war, and others, those who remembered the old stories, begged for silence. "They were warned," hissed the representative of the Ilari, a race of tall, crystal-skinned beings. "We told them not to cross. The Zurich-I mocked us, and now their fleets are gone." "The Zurich-I are strong," snarled another. "Perhaps they are only hiding their victory. Perhaps this is a trick to frighten us." But no one truly believed it. The Zurich-I never hid victories. They broadcast them to the stars with pride. The silence meant something else, something worse. Then reports began to arrive from the border. Merchant vessels spoke of strange shadows drifting between the stars. Patrol ships claimed their engines, failed near the void. Long-range sensors picked up signals, faint and broken, echoing across channels. They were not alien voices. They were something older, something unfamiliar, yet terrifyingly clear. They were human voices. One trader swore he heard whispers over his comms, words he could not understand but could feel in his bones. Another crew barely escaped. Their ship, battered and systems failing. Their captain, shaking with fear, screamed across the council's channels before his signal cut. "They are real, the humans are real, and they do not welcome us." Silence filled the chamber after his words. For the first time in living memory, the council did not argue. They did not shout. They only sat in fear, staring at one another, as the echoes of terror hung in the air. Across the galaxy, ordinary people felt the weight of the news. Children who once laughed at bedtime stories now clung to their parents in silence. Traders changed their maps, drawing wide arcs around human space, refusing to sail near it. Pilots swore they saw massive ships, blacker than the void, drifting just outside of sensor range, watching them. Fear spread like a plague, but the council still struggled with doubt. Some demanded proof. "We cannot fear shadows," said one delegate. "Show us wreckage, show us battle. Until then, this is only rumor." Yet others shook their heads. "Rumor is enough," one elder said softly. "Rumor is how fear begins. And fear keeps us alive." In the days that followed, more signals leaked from the void. Fragments of unmatched transmissions, broken by static and screams. Ships calling for help, voices filled with terror before fading into silence. The unmatched Dominion, once so proud, could not hide the truth anymore. Their fleets were gone. Their commanders were gone. And their empire trembled for the first time in history. But the most terrifying thought of all was not the loss of the unmatched. It was the question that spread through every mind in the galaxy. If the humans can erase thousands of warships without being seen, what else can they do? The council had no answer. The galaxy had no comfort. Only the void remained, heavy with whispers and shadows. The humans had not spoken. They had not shown themselves. And yet, their silence was louder than war. And in that silence, the galaxy finally began to feel the old fear return. The Council of Worlds could not sit in silence any longer. The unmatched fleets had vanished. Rumors spread like fire. Whole colonies whispered of shadows moving in the void. Traders refused to pass near the border. Fear had grown too heavy. Something had to be done. Inside the Grand Chamber, the delegates argued for days. Some demanded war. Some demanded retreat. Others begged for caution. But in the end, a decision was made. A single envoy ship would be sent. It would carry no weapons, only symbols of peace. If the humans were real, perhaps they could be reasoned with. The envoy chosen was from the Kalari, a gentle species known for peace and diplomacy. Their skin shimmered like water, their voices soft like music. If anyone could reach the humans with calm words, it was them. The galaxy held its breath as the Kalari ship crossed the border into human space. All across the stars, people watched the broadcast. The envoy's voice carried steady and calm. "We come in peace. We carry no arms. We bring greetings from the Council of Worlds. We seek understanding." Then silence. Hours passed. Days passed. The envoy never returned. No signal came, no wreckage was found. The ship had simply vanished, as though the void itself had swallowed it whole. The council chamber was filled with dread. Panic echoed through the galaxy. If even peaceful, words were not enough. What hope remained? And then it happened. Without warning, every channel, every frequency, every communicator in the galaxy came alive. On every world, in every ship, in every home, the signal broke through. A voice spoke. It was human. It was not angry. It was not loud. It was calm, steady, and cold, like a hand of steel placed upon the galaxy's throat. The voice spoke in every language at once, perfectly clear to all who heard. You were warned. No species enters human space. This is your only message. There will not be another. Then silence returned. The effect was immediate. In great cities, streets went quiet as the words echoed in every ear. In distant colonies, children cried as their parents held them close. On warships, hardened soldiers froze, unable to speak. Entire worlds sat in silence, listening to the echo of those simple words. For the first time in living memory, the galaxy felt small. All its armies, all its empires, all its pride. None of it mattered in the face of that voice. It was not the shout of a conqueror. It was not the roar of a tyrant. It was the quiet warning of something far older, far stronger, and far more dangerous. The Zurich Dominion, broken and humiliated, dared not send more fleets. Their pride had turned to dust. The council no longer argued. Every species, no matter how bold, no matter how arrogant, now carried the same thought in their hearts. The humans are real. But that was not the most frightening part. What truly chilled the galaxy was the meaning behind the silence. The humans had not demanded tribute. They had not claimed territory. They had not attacked. They had spoken only one sentence, and it was enough to bring the galaxy to its knees. No one dared to cross the border again. No one dared to test the warning. The void remained untouched, a shadow that stretched across every map. From that day on, there was no need for myths. There was no need for whispers. The humans had spoken, and the galaxy finally understood what it meant to fear. The galaxy could no longer deny it. Humans were real. Their voice had carried across every world, a warning that silenced even the strongest of empires. Yet after that message, they spoke no more. No more signals. No more signs. Only silence. But silence, the galaxy had learned, was far more frightening than war. Scholars, spies, and historians across the stars began to search old records. They dug into ancient files, forgotten archives, and broken myths. What they found unsettled them all. Once, long ago, humans had not been silent. They had walked among the stars like every other race. Their fleets traded, their colonies shone, their voices filled the council chambers. Some described them as strange yet familiar, small, soft-skinned compared to many, but with eyes that burned with a light unlike any other. But then came the Great Wars. Long before many species had even left their homeworlds, the humans fought. Wars so brutal they shook the stars. They fought not against one enemy, but against many. Machines that rebelled, predators from deep space, even each other. World after world burned. Billions died. Half their colonies were lost. The records spoke of battles that made suns flicker and planets crack, and yet through it all the humans endured. Where others would have broken, they grew harder. Where others would have surrendered, they built weapons no one else dared imagine. And then, silence. No one knew why. Some said the humans had destroyed themselves. Others whispered they had withdrawn by choice, sealing their borders so the galaxy could not harm them again. But whatever the truth, the result was the same. They disappeared from galactic life, and in their place grew legends of shadows, ghosts, and fear. The Zurich invasion had proven those legends true. But now the galaxy asked a question far more terrifying than, are humans real? The new question was, what had they been doing in their silence? For centuries, while the rest of the galaxy traded and squabbled, humans had been building. No one knew how much territory they controlled. No one knew the size of their fleets. No one knew the strength of their weapons. All they knew was that thousands of Zurich warships had vanished without leaving even wreckage behind. The Council's finest tacticians debated endlessly. No species could do this unseen, they argued. Even the strongest empire leaves traces of war. Yet the humans had erased an armada as if it never existed. That was what made them terrifying. Rumors grew in the dark corners of the galaxy. Some said humans had weapons that bent light itself, making their fleets invisible. Others whispered they had turned war into science, creating machines that consumed ships whole. A few believed they had gone beyond flesh, becoming something greater, something unbound by time and fear. Every rumor was different, but every rumor ended the same. The humans were untouchable. On distant colonies, children no longer laughed at the old stories. Instead, they asked their parents, "Will the humans come for us one day?" And parents had no answer. Even the strongest soldiers, even the proudest empires could not lie. They did not know. And in that silence, the galaxy finally understood the truth. Humans had not disappeared. They had not been destroyed. They had been waiting, watching, preparing. And now, with only a single message, they had reminded the galaxy of who they were. No species entered human space. No species dared. And in every heart, from the smallest child to the oldest emperor, one thought returned again and again. If the humans ever leave their silence, the galaxy will not survive. The galaxy had changed. Maps were rewritten. Every chart, every star map, every trading lane now carried the same mark. A vast black region labeled only with 2 words, human space. Captains who once joked about myths now drew wide arcs to avoid it. Traders refused even the richest routes if they came too close. It was as if the void itself had grown teeth. Silence ruled the border. No empire dared cross. No pirate, no mercenary, no desperate smuggler would take the risk. The Zurich dominion, once arrogant, now sat broken and humiliated. Their fleets were gone, their leaders silent. Not even they dared to speak of invasion anymore. And yet the humans made no move. They did not attack. They did not send fleets beyond their border. They did not demand tribute or power. They simply watched. That was what terrified the galaxy most. Because silence was not weakness. Silence was patience. And patience was more frightening than war. In the council chambers, the debates grew desperate. Some argued, perhaps the humans will never leave their space. Perhaps they only wish to be left alone. Others whispered, no, they are waiting. Waiting for us to forget. Waiting for us to weaken. Then they will strike. No one knew the truth. And so, fear spread deeper than any weapon ever could. Ordinary people felt it most. In the streets of shining cities, markets once filled with laughter grew quiet when the subject was raised. Parents hushed their children when they asked about the humans. Soldiers trained harder, though none believed they could match what lay in the void. Even the strongest leaders in the privacy of their chambers admitted one truth. If humans chose to march again, no one could stop them. Rumors never stopped. Captains swore they saw enormous ships drifting just inside the border, massive shadows larger than stations, silent and waiting. Others claimed they heard voices across their comms. Calm, steady, human voices speaking words they could not understand. Every rumor fed the fear. Every whisper made the silence heavier. But in time, another question spread across the galaxy, one more frightening than the rest. If humans had the power to erase fleets, if they had built weapons greater than anyone imagined, why had they not used them? The answer was worse than war. It meant they did not need to. Empires rose and fell, but none dared test human space again. Generations passed, and still the border remained untouched. Children grew into adults, carrying the same warnings their parents once whispered. Entire cultures built legends around the silent humans, and through it all the same thought lingered in every mind. The humans had not been conquered, had not been defeated. They had chosen silence. They had chosen patience. And if they had chosen it once, they could choose to end it at any time. The galaxy lived under that shadow. Even the strongest weapons, even the bravest warriors, meant nothing against the unknown power of those who waited. The humans did not speak again, but they did not need to. Their silence was enough. And so the galaxy held its breath. It would keep holding it for years, for centuries, for as long as the humans wished, because in the end fear was not in the sound of their war drums. Fear was in the silence of their watchful eyes. Generations passed, yet the silence of human space never faded. Entire empires rose and fell, but not one dared cross the dark border. On every map, the words human space remained written in warning. Like a scar carved into the galaxy, the young grew up hearing the stories. To them, humans were not myth anymore, but something far worse, an unspoken truth. Their parents told them, do not go near their stars, do not call their names, do not even think of crossing their borders. The children nodded in silence, for even in their innocence they felt the fear. The council still met, still argued. but even the proudest voices trembled when the subject of humans was raised. "We must not provoke them," said one delegate. "We must live as if they are not there." Another whispered, "But they are there. They are always there, watching." And that was the truth that no one wanted to admit. Humans had not left their space. They had not invaded, not demanded tribute, not even spoken again since their one warning. Yet the galaxy felt their presence everywhere. It was in the silence of the border, in the shadows drifting past sensors, in the uneasy dreams of every captain who steered too close. The Zurakai Dominion, once the loudest empire in the stars, had been broken forever. Their fleets never returned. Their pride turned to ash. And though they rebuilt, they never dared raise their voices about conquest again. To mention the humans was to reopen a wound too deep to heal. But it was not only the Zurakai who had changed. The entire galaxy had. For the first time in history, every species, every empire, every voice carried the same fear. The galaxy had many dangers. Pirates, warlords, plagues. But those were things one could fight, cure, or resist. Humans were different. Humans were beyond reach. They did not need to fight. They did not need to conquer. Their silence itself was stronger than armies, their patience heavier than fleets. Every species knew it. If humans ever chose to rise again, the galaxy would have no chance. And so, the galaxy lived in a fragile balance. Trade continued, wars flared in distant systems, and politics filled the chambers. Yet beneath it all, beneath every victory and defeat, lay the unshakable knowledge that all of it meant nothing compared to the quiet shadow in the dark. Some called it respect. Others called it fear. But deep down, everyone knew the same truth. No species enters human space. That was the rule carved into the stars. That was the lesson paid for with the lives of thousands of Zurakai ships. That was the law no empire dared to break. Because behind that border, behind that silence, waited the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever known. Not because of their weapons, though those were feared. Not because of their strength, though that was unmatched. But because they were human. A species born on a world of storms and fire. A species that endured endless wars and never broke. A species that chose silence not because it was weak, but because it was strong enough to wait. And so the galaxy finally understood the truth. It was not myths that haunted the stars. It was not monsters. It was not gods. It was humans. And in the quiet of every night, on every world, in every heart, the same thought whispered again and again. The humans are real. They are watching. And no one dares to cross them.